Good evening, boys and girls. Welcome to another live edition of the Highbury Squad. What a day it has been. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. As you know, the next stop is indeed HS. Come prepared because Josh is with his take on how the Arsenal can beat Chelsea. Here we go. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another live edition of the Highbury Squad. Look at Josh. Kev, he's already ready. He was already like...
Too prepared.
I love that. I love it.
Welcome back, my podcast brother from another mother. And it's Dickie Bow Thursday. And my goodness, are you looking sharp? Super Kevin Campbell. Bop.
But I'm going to beat up some of them media, boy. Bruk them.
We'll
These
talk about
media
that
guys,
a
man.
little bit at the end because it's been, I feel like Josh, and by the way, our tactical genius, the Tactical Squad show, Josh is back. Give him a round of applause, everybody. And as Josh rightly did at the very top, hello, squaddies. Welcome, everybody. At ease, everyone. Welcome. So just a quick tip, going forward, these shows are probably going to be pre-records. We're going to have some fun stuff for you. But for today, we just wanted to say hi. Josh is ready to kind of give you the breakdown on Chelsea. But going forward, the Tactical Squad will be what this show will be called. And Josh will be leading that for the big games. And he'll be presenting how he thinks the Arsenal can beat the opponent to Super Kev. So, Josh, welcome back. How you doing? You good?
Yeah, all things considered. I remember we shared a text exchange, I think, sometime on Saturday, where I was like, it's not going too well with any of my teams. And some of them turned it around. So I would say Arsenal wasn't one of them.
No.
At that point.
But I think, you know, I tell you something, guys. I feel like today I have been fighting a war on Twitter with people, you know, and well, Cleopatra, I've got Pirate, Cleopatra, and also Gangster. So I'll take the Cleopatra, by the way. One of my favorite actresses, Elizabeth Taylor. Can I just say that we're going to address this in a separate content piece later today, and you'll see why. And I don't know if anyone wants to add to any of this right now. We could just get stuck into the game against Chelsea. But let's just say that I'm not Arteta's supporter, and I'm not sitting here saying that I am changing my opinion about Arteta. No, for the persons or people that called me out on Twitter, I'm saying when we sign new players, support them, get behind them, don't kill them before they've even the shirt and represented the club. And even if they have done after one game, you want to kill them. Give this a chance, everybody. Stop the madness. It's a disgrace that Aaron Ramsdale is being bullied on Twitter, Kevin. I am so angry.
Absolute disgrace. But let's put it into context. I think because we need a bit of context here. The Twitterverse is not a true reflection of the Arsenal. Let's have that right. That is not, and these people, you don't know whether they're actually Arsenal fans or not. We don't know. So let's just have some context in there. He puts the Arsenal shirt on. We back him. For all these idiots who have been reaching out to a player who is not even signed yet. And being disrespectful and disgusting now. That's not Arsenal. To me, that's not Arsenal. That's not Arsenal fans. No chance. And if it is Arsenal fans, well, I don't want you as Arsenal fans. I could tell you that much.
And I know, Josh, we've been exchanging some messages too. And, you know, it's just not cool. I mean, I know we're broken. I know we have issues where we've reached rock bottom and we're trying to find our way back up. And if there's anything that we should always do is support the players who wear the shirt.
Absolutely. It should always be that case that whilst we don't necessarily like the player in terms of what they could bring to the team and the decision about whether or not they should come in at all. As soon as they're wearing that Arsenal shirt, they're one of ours. They're one of us. And that's where we should be giving them all of the support that we would give to, say, Saka and Smith Rowe, our favourite players, to even some of the ones that we don't necessarily like in that way. And the kind of stuff I think we were saying before, it kind of ruins social media for the people that remember when Saka, as well as the other two guys who missed the penalties in the Euros, first thing you want to do on social media, you follow them on Instagram. You'd love to send them a message, just a comment after he's put up a post about it, just going, unlucky, mate, all the best for the rest of the season, or, you'll come back stronger. And that's been ruined for us. For everybody who wants to do something positive in the world has been ruined by the few that want to be negative. And that's the kind of thing that I think Kev's going to address in his thing, because it's not just coming from, the bottom of the barrel of Twitter. It's coming a lot higher up in some people who have got big media platforms helping stir this up, because I know it generates views, it generates likes, it generates clicks when you're very negative about arguably the biggest online fan base in football, in the Arsenal squad. Of course it's going to bring traffic to you, but there's a certain line where you rile the crowd up so much they end up getting out of control and they do something that you didn't expect them to.
Yeah. It just makes me want Ramsdale to succeed. It makes me want him. Kev, we didn't spend this money on a keeper to come in for long term to be the number 2. Let's get that right.
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the long game on this one.
Yeah. And our Good Morning Gunners show is going to be back, and we're going to have Mike from You Are My Arsenal because he wrote a great piece on the long-term plan as well. So look out for that show. We'll be announcing that in the next few days. Right, Josh, in the meantime, over to you, because we do have a London derby on Sunday. And no matter what anyone says, okay, some people might be dreading this, but we're playing Chelsea, who the Arsenal haven't lost to in the league since 2019. We lost 2-1. I believe it was at home in December. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But we've had the barrel over them in the FA Cup, and we beat them twice last season. So, Josh, how do we beat the mighty Chelsea, who have just done the double, winning the Champions League and the Super League? Over to you.
Wow. It's going to be difficult, we'll put it that way. But if there's anything Arteta has shown us, and whilst we might not like some of his aspects of the football, there's one thing he can do, and that's get us a result against one of the bigger teams. We've seen it. You just mentioned 3 wins against Chelsea last season. Man City in the FA Cup run as well. He's shown that we can close down teams that are very aggressive in their terms of attacking and build-up play. I want to throw back a little bit to Brentford and see what we saw at Brentford, of where we're going to need to make changes. I'm not anticipating that we'll see as a high press from Chelsea that we did against Brentford. Brentford were very organised in their press. You could see it was a well-drilled team that knew what they've been doing for a few seasons, and they've got that set. Chelsea have had a bit more chop and change, so I don't expect it to be necessarily as well drilled, especially if the elephant in the room. Should we talk about their £90+ million striker, Romelu Lukaku?
The striker Kev and I wanted at the Arsenal. Yes, him.
That guy. He certainly knows his way around terrorising an Arsenal defence. I think we can think back to his time at West Brom. On loan, I remember him terrorising us then. I remember Martinez using him as a winger when we played Everton, and he gave Monreal an absolutely torrid time out on the flank. And this is where I think we're going to see, it's going to be the case of stopping the service to Lukaku, really. And one of the things we didn't do very well against Brentford was having someone that would sit between the lines of the centre backs and the central midfield. No one was sitting in that pocket, picking up either because they played with 2 forwards, they had someone dropping off like a number 10. And that's my kind of worry right now. Is Lokonga didn't look like he always wants to pull in there. Xhaka certainly doesn't want to pull in there, and we didn't see White or Mari being on the front foot and pushing out there to go and close them down. So that's something with how the defense is set up. Hopefully, another couple of weeks of training, or another week of training. Gabriel still isn't back, so I expect to still see Mari and White continue. I don't think we'll go back to back three, but Kev, what did you reckon to the kind of defense? Like, do you think you'll see any changes from that back four we saw against Brentford?
No, I don't really think we'll see many changes at all. I think we're very limited to what we can do. I think we might see a bit of changes, obviously higher up the pitch. We might see some changes there. But I think obviously Tierney, Mari, Ben White and Chambers probably start the game with Leno in goal. And it's going to be a different kettle of fish because of the opposition. If we let them play, we know what we're going to get. So I think the onus is on us. We're at home. The onus is on us to put them under pressure. That's how we defeated them last season at the Emirates. And I think we've got to take a leaf out of that book to, if we're gonna cut the quality of ball into Lukaku, then we have to be brave and press high.
Yeah.
Josh, he hasn't scored. His goal scoring ratio versus us isn't that great, though, is it, Lukaku?
Not when he was at United.
Not when he was at United.
Yeah, I think against Everton, he's had a good couple of games against us.
He's had some fun, hasn't he? Yeah.
He's had some fun when he was at Everton. That was in a more, Martinez football compared to Solskjaer football.
Right.
Two very different things. And that's one of the things that I think can help us is the fact that Lukaku is a great striker. Doesn't necessarily have the best first touch. I think that's why he was so great in Italy, was because of the slow back line and the fact he's got the pace as he can catch that his first touch again. If we can get close to him, he's not necessarily great in those tight spaces, but it's getting close to him in the first instance. And if we're happy to almost say to Mari, who I think for me would be the player that I would put next to be man-marking Lukaku almost.
Really? You would choose him over Holding, who's actually played quite well against Chelsea in the past? Why? Why are you choosing Mari, Josh?
I don't think Holding comes back into the side, personally. I think the Arteta is so wed to having a left-footed centre-back in the squad. It's the first purchase he made was Mari coming in because he wanted a left-footer in that back line. I think it will see the same again. It's whether or not he trusts Ben White yet to play on that left side like he would with Luiz, because that was the only player he'd let, not be left-footed and play on the left side of the defence was Luiz, David Luiz, who obviously isn't at the club anymore. So I think that's where it's got to be Mari, because it's no way should be White. White is very, I think, as I did a show with you guys previously on what Ben White brings to the squad. And I think one of the things that was highlighted in the Brentford game was his aerial ability, or how he's not necessarily the strongest at that. Very good at reading the ball, superbly calm in possession. It's the kind of thing that you want, Mari kind of nipping the ball out from Lukaku and then just sliding it into Ben White, who can then be composed, look for the pass, do something a bit more cultured, rather than the option being, I've just got to absolutely clear it.
Josh, can I sorry, Kev and Josh, I'd like to know, Mari is definitely more of a mind, like a football mind type of player versus pace, and Chelsea aren't that slow up front, and Lukaku's leaner, meaner, fitter. And we're all assuming that he starts on Sunday. That's the word, of course. Is that a concern? Like, with regards to, especially in terms of how their possession play and how they break, Kev and Josh, like, isn't that a worry with Mari and how slow he is and that we've seen?
Kev, do you want to take that one?
Well, you could go and I'll go after.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I would say, in terms of Mari's pace and how I would play against Chelsea, is I would sit quite deep against them. I wouldn't necessarily hit them as hard, because I'm not. The great thing about their forward line with Havertz, with Werner, I imagine James will be back as well. Pulisic, of course, is that pace on the counter. If they haven't got that space to run into in behind us, then that kind of almost not necessarily nullifies them. But it's the same as we saw when we used to have Walcott in our forward line and Aubameyang as well. His teams would just sit deep, and then Aubameyang's pace is almost it's made it almost useless at that point. We just can't bring that into the game, and that's why I would keep Mari in place. I think we can work around the fact that he isn't necessarily the quickest. I don't think anyone else who's available I would bring in, because Rob Holding, he's not exactly Roadrunner as a centre back either. So I don't think we've got the options to switch out, and it's going to be more of a tactical decision for how deep we play to go against Chelsea. But Kev, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think, listen, in theory, yeah, we've got to defend deep, but when we're on the attack, we've got to push up. So, this is a risk you take. I think the key to playing against Chelsea is your goalkeeper starting position. We know what they want to do. They want to play the ball in behind you. They want to use Werner's pace. They're going to want to use Lukaku's pace. They're going to want to use Havertz's pace running from deep. So if your goalkeeper starting position is good and the ball goes over the top, your goalkeeper has to be used as a sweeper. That is the key. Whenever we do venture upfield, Leno has to be alert, because we've seen balls go in behind us and he's in the box and Havertz is running clear and Werner's running clear. We can't be having that. So no. I think it's going to be a really interesting game. But the key is we've got to try and stop as many of their attacks building from the back as possible.
Yeah, especially as we don't have the luxury of having a player that's got that pace, to almost for recovery pace, to get in and catch them. Once they're gone, because the player that is quick is Kieran Tierney, who Sophie just brought up in the picture next to Lukaku on international duty. And you saw against Brentford how high up the field he was. If a quick counter's coming, he's probably not going to be the one, he's not going to be the first one back clearing the line. As much as we think he is all action, he can't do everything for us. I think that comes to an attacking point of view as well. Kev, for me, I don't think we can be so one-dimensional as we were against Brentford, which was, at times, I saw Xhaka sitting there waiting for Tierney with the overlap rather than playing a ball to anyone else. And we can't... Where do you think we can change in the attacking sense? Do you think it's just simple as Odegaard flies in, today or tomorrow, and he's straight in the side?
Well, I believe there's no protocol for him to isolate, so he can come straight in. For me, the key is who plays number 9. Now, if Balogun's going to play, we're going to have to help him a lot more than we did at Brentford. We have to help the young man a lot more. And whoever plays there, to be honest, we have to help them a lot more, because getting them good ball that they can deal with, and Balogun likes to be able to be on the run. So what we have to do is we have to release him from that midfield. And that's where our problems stem, because there were times where we got the jump on the Brentford midfield. He's peeled off, and we ran with the ball. But we got to give him the ball, let him be 1v1, let him be able to take the defender on, etc., so he feels a little bit more comfortable. We didn't quite do that. I think Smith Rowe broke the lines a couple of times. Balogun made a great run, and he just couldn't get the ball out of his feet. I think that was first half, especially. Yeah. So it's difficult for us if we're not playing to our players' strengths. And that's one of the difficulties you have with younger players. Got to know how to release them. Got to be able to give them the ball when they want it, not when you want to give it.
So I wanted to put this up for you, Josh and Kev from KG, because it does seem to be Arteta loves playing from the flanks. He doesn't like playing through the middle. It seems like it's give Kieran Tierney the ball mostly. And against Chelsea, I wonder, in the games that we've played, we've definitely exposed them on the flanks. Is this going to be an area, just kind of tailing off from what Kev said, is this going to be an area, Josh, that you feel like where we're going to be able to expose them the most, whether it's the left or right, or is the right more of a weakness than the left? And then some people are saying, should Tavares play, or how does Saka integrate? So I just wanted to throw that at you as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a load of great questions there, and I think if I had the right answers to all of them,
you'd be manager of Arsenal.
Exactly, I'd be sitting in the dugout on Sunday. Yeah, it's difficult for what you can do. Chelsea love to play a three at the back, especially under Tuchel, and I think there is always going to be that space. If you can catch that wing back out, turn it over, and you can both get past them, you can double up really easily on a guy who isn't necessarily as comfortable going out wide, because their chances are they're a centre-back playing a little bit out of position. And if we can isolate one of them out on there, it was Trevor Chalobah, who had a great loan spell in France last season with, I think, now other squaddy Chris, who'll be talking about French football with us for the rest of the season.
He's got on Saliba watch, and we're on football watch. Absolutely, yes,
absolutely.
100%.
So he'll be one to tell you all of Chalobah, because he was at his team, Lorient, last season. But it's trying to get that inexperienced player, try and drag him out of his comfort zone, because he looked to have quite an easy game at the weekend. Getting a goal as well on your debut from a centre back. The way he got it was really interesting. So yeah, I would make sure I've got some wingers that want to go and overlap. I think it's going to be key. I think on the left side, we can already imagine it's going to be Tierney. It's probably going to be Saka out there as well. What I'm wondering is what we're going to do on the right flank, because I think that's where Chelsea might be weaker. You've got Marcus Alonso coming along there, who we know has got a turning circle similar to Mertesacker's. So if we can get past him, that's fine. We can then get straight into that centre back. But is it Pepe there? Pepe, we know he loves to cut in. And we've got Chambers. And we know Chambers does like to bomb on, but it's making sure he's always on the overlap, available, putting doubt into that outside centre backs kind of thought of going, do I go? Do I not? What do I do? Oh, Pepe's got the ball. And it's that uncertainty we need to play with and make sure we get pop shots off to Mendy, who I think, when we're talking about spending, £30 million on a backup goalkeeper, they can have a £72 million backup goalkeeper on their bench. But that's the kind of thing is I think we can get at him as well. And I think Pepe, there's something about him when he comes up against players he's met in the French league, he has a bit more confidence, I think. And he loves to hit that kind of curling shot. We've seen it time and time again towards the back end of last season. If we can find whatever that magic potion is that gives him that confidence, bottle it, give it to him the day before, because he looked a shadow of the player that he was only 5-6 weeks ago when the season ended.
So a lot. Go on, Kev.
I was just going to say, for all us talking about the front, the key to this game is going to be in the centre of the pitch. It's the engine room. If we can get a good grip of the game, then we could allow the wing backs to really push on and create the 2v1s on the outside. But if we don't control the centre of the pitch, there's no way they're going to get up the pitch because we don't have possession. That's going to be the key to the game. If we keep turning it over to Chelsea are going to hurt us on the break. That's for sure. Yeah. So Xhaka and Lokonga have to have good, solid games in that midfield. Whoever they play against in there, they're going to have real good, solid games and keep us ticking over for us to beat them.
Yeah, it's got to be really quick interchanging passes between those two. We can't afford to necessarily dwell on the ball. in there,
No
especially
slow.
if Kante's back. Kante's biggest kryptonite is a fast-paced ball pinned around him because he doesn't know where to move. He's great at chasing down the ball. When it's easy, it's slow, and he can get back into position. But once he started being pulled out, if you can then ping the ball around him, it's nice and easy, and you can go and continue to hit Chelsea where they don't want them to be hit. And that's where I think, as you were saying with Balogun, if he's the guy that's starting, I think just looking through Arteta's press conference of who's available and who's not, Aubameyang's only just back from having COVID. Who knows how much that knocked him out by. So, yeah, a big unknown quantity in Balogun going into their defence. Chelsea scouts, that's what they're doing this weekend, or this week. They've been looking to see what Balogun's good at, what he's not good at, because he is an unknown quantity to them. And
Josh, whoa, Josh. They know. Chelsea know what Balogun's about. They've played against him in the youth team. They've played against him in the 23s. They know, trust me, they know all about Balogun.
Yeah.
And they're going to be, they just have to, they'll have a report. It'll go into the first team boys, and the first team boys will look. The first team boys, they'd probably watch a video of the Brentford game.
Yeah.
He's a rookie.
A lot of people in chat are asking both of you, and there are tons of it, suggesting that Maitland-Niles should play right back this weekend. What's your take on that?
I'd say one of the big things that we were talking about is making sure when we have the ball, we keep the ball, and having a player that, for me, is very loose in his passes, isn't one for me for competing. I know he's got that kind of pace, and if he wants to play right back, then fine. But I think we have to move to right wing backs, and we move to 3 at the back to accommodate him, because I don't think he's secure enough in his passing, for me anyway, to be playing that role. I'd rather have Chambers in there every day of the week.
I think Maitland-Niles switches off at times as well. He doesn't really want to play there, and I think he switches off because he thinks like a midfielder.
But
he has had good games there. He has, of course.
To me, he's been a better partner for Pepe if Pepe's going to play on that right side, Josh. You know, it just seems, especially against Chelsea, there's something about maybe trying something different. Chambers was horrific against Brentford. Cedric hasn't played enough. You know, this is a London derby coming into it. I don't think Arteta's going to take any unnecessary risks, but there's an argument to maybe Maitland-Niles playing. I don't understand the kind of criticism of him not being able to pass, or isn't he a better defender than Chambers, don't you think? Or
I don't think he's a better defender. He looks better because he's got that recovery pace. He can come in. He's gonna be that last guy. So he's always there with the Hollywood tackle at the end, that Hollywood interception. I think, yes, we're not going to get that from Chambers, and that's one of the points I've said earlier, is that is a worry, that we don't have a player that's there to kind of come back and maybe sweep. Just thinking back to kind of the Euros, you saw it with Kyle Walker for England, who was always that player that sat back and was always making sure that he had the pace to sweep. But if we're going to be playing Maitland-Niles, I don't want Maitland-Niles just to be there to make sure he can sweep in behind. I'd want him as far high up the pitch as possible, because he does have a good cross on him. I'll say that he's not the best passer, but he has a good cross on him. But I think I'd rather be. Yeah, go for it.
Let me jump in here and ask you this then. Do you think there's a chance that Arteta will play Tavares in that right back position? Kev, Josh?
No.
Too high risk in this game?
No, I just don't think so. I think it will play into Chelsea's hands because he's not good going on the outside. He's not right-footed. He's a lefty. So it play into Chelsea's hands. They'll set the trap. He's going to play the ball inside. If I know you're going to play the ball inside, it's easy for me to set the trap for you.
Cedric is one potential that we might see. I can't think how much of him I saw in pre-season, but I think that experience that Cedric's got, we go through his list of honours, especially for Portugal, the level he has played at, then maybe we bring that experience in and something to compete with Chambers. but I'm not. Again, I don't expect Arteta to make many changes. He is very, kind of wed to the set of starting 11 he puts out. Unless you have a horrible game, he's probably not going to switch you out. He's going to have faith with you.
Well, we need a right back, Josh. So
we do need a new
we
right.
haven't
We
got
do
a
need
number
new
one right
back.
back. That's why we're going through all this.
This conversation perfectly sums up exactly why we need a right back, because there are some people in chat even saying, is there a chance that he might throw Bellerin in there? Which,
of course, there is a chance.
There's every chance. I mean,
of course.
You could argue like, okay, he has the experience against playing against Chelsea, but we don't know what kind of player he is these days, do we? I mean,
where his head is, or whatever.
Better, exactly. If he's not, there's stories that he's, wanting to leave. Don't want to put a player into the starting 11 who doesn't actually want to be there against Chelsea. You do that when you've exhausted all other options, not when you've got 3 other available options of people who at least want to be at the club longer than the end of August.
So what's the what Kev says the midfield's going to be the place where we win and lose the game. We've talked a lot about on this show about how, you look at the engine of City in midfield, you look at Liverpool, they're done, they're kind of great wall that even prevents some teams even getting to that final third. You look at what Chelsea have been able to do and adapt with Tuchel coming in and completely throwing Lampard's even first choices in the team, Josh, and transforming them. For me, I feel like, I'm not saying we'll win or lose it in midfield, but for me, it's definitely going to be that back line. And then the biggest question that's coming from chat and everyone is Leno going to start, or is Ramsdale going to be thrown right in? And everyone wants to know what the answer to that question is.
Oh, that is a lamb to the slaughter.
Hey, according to Twitter, Ramsdale shouldn't even be at the club. I can't see it. No. I think Ramsdale will take his position on the bench. That's for sure.
So, Josh, Aubameyang's had COVID again, or has he had it before? No. He's had malaria.
No, he had malaria.
Yeah, God bless. Wonder why they all have COVID. Anyway, he's not going to be thrown right in. And you think he'll start Balogun against Chelsea, Kev, is what you said? You don't think that he'll just throw Aubameyang right into this game?
I didn't mention Aubameyang at all. I just said if Balogun plays.
Yeah.
If Balogun plays, obviously, because Aubameyang had COVID, that doesn't necessarily mean he's not going to be training alone. He'll be keeping himself fit, because a lot of the time, if you get a positive test and you got no symptoms, you could train. You could do what you want. You could train, but you have to train alone. Yeah, and I'm sure if Aubameyang felt okay, then he'll be working on his own, and I'm sure he'll be up for playing in this game.
Josh, what's your take on you mentioned Balogun earlier at the top of the show and stuff like that. Why don't you just throw out your starting 11? What does that take us through the whole team?
So it's going to be quite simple for everybody. It's going to be very similar to what we saw against Brentford, because we haven't really got any more different options than that. For me, I think it is very much Leno in goal, Tierney, Mari, White, Chambers again. Then we're going into midfield. Xhaka, for me, starts. I think you could see again how instrumental he is in Arteta's kind of game plan. He might not necessarily execute what we want him to do in the game, but he certainly does enough for the manager. Lokonga, I thought looked really interesting in his first game. He's got the legs in there that I think we're going to need to help drive and progress the ball more than if we play down any. If we were going full defensive, I think it will give us a clue basically on Sunday when we see the lineup, what Arteta's plan is. If it's El Neni in midfield, I think we're both Xhaka and El Neni are sitting in front of the back line, and we're not expecting either of them to kind of push up and progress with the ball. If it's Lokonga in there, which is what I'd go for, it's a guy that can carry the ball couple of places, release it to Smith Rowe and Saka, who I'd look to bring into the side to start, and then Pepe as well. So I think I've gone through everybody apart from who I'd start as striker. And Brentford, we saw 3 people play striker for us across that game. Balogun obviously started. When Balogun came off, Martinelli played there for a bit. And then when Martinelli came off, Pepe came up there for the last 20 minutes. And I think Martinelli may start against Chelsea. Nothing on Balogun. I think it's because Saka comes in and then it just kind of rotates to kind of, I'm expecting that Martinelli is kind of third choice striker. If I expect everybody who I expect to leave does, he's going to be second or third choice with Balogun behind him in terms of experience. So that's what I'd go with, Martinelli as striker.
What do you think of that team, Kev?
Yeah, I think it's obviously if Aubameyang plays, then that would probably be our strongest side for now. We know it's not as strong as Chelsea, but one thing we do know, Arsenal sometimes do have a sign over Chelsea. It's going to be a tough one, of course it is. But it's our first home game. You know, we've got to fight fire with fire. And these games have a weird way of throwing up banana skins. You know, when we beat them just before Christmas, you know, we beat them, 3-1 we beat them. And we didn't give us a chance, really. Put the kids in, and the kids ripped it up. So, hey, listen, it's a London derby. Fingers crossed. And again, that key is the midfield. We've got to get hold of that midfield.
What's the difference between this team, Josh and Kev, in terms of the team was able to beat Chelsea twice last year in the league? What do you think? Because one of the things a lot of people asking me are like, so do you really think that we're a better team so far, you know, even with our transfer than we were last season? So if you're looking at the 3-1 win and the 1-0 win at Stamford Bridge, I'll start with you, Josh. What's and then Kev can respond to that. What's the angst Arsenal fans have all of a sudden playing Chelsea in the league versus thinking, you know what, we beat them twice last season. We beat them in the FA Cup final twice. Why can't we do it again?
I think the first one's the guy at the helm is very different. I think it was Lampard back then. At least a couple of those wins was Lampard being the manager, who I think we found out fairly quickly, or at least a lot of people found out fairly quickly who hadn't seen his Derby side, is Lampard doesn't teach defence. So I think we definitely utilise that weakness. Tuchel is a very different kettle of fish, I think, in terms of especially what he's got that squad doing now. They're very defensively solid. It is a worry, especially because they've spent £300-400 million in the past 2 transfer windows. It's always going to be daunting when you come up against a team like that. But as Kev said, Arsenal have shown in the past that we can punch above our weight quite easily. And that's one of the things that I think will go under the radar, and is our record against the top 6, or our fellow top 6, as it were, is a lot better than it has been under any other manager. Whilst Arteta doesn't necessarily seem to get it done, and it would be case in point that, you know, if you'd said from the first 3 fixtures, you got 4 points, that those 4 points come up against City and Chelsea rather than getting any points against Brentford. It shows the problem we've got right now is Arteta knows how to win those big games. He just doesn't necessarily know how to beat those sides that demand more from us. In terms of Brentford were very on the front foot. They had nothing to lose against us. You know, first game of the season in the Premier League for the first time for since the 70s in the top division. They had nothing to fear by coming against anybody, because they know they've got 38 games this season where there's at least something thought of them. There's some kind of ambition, but that's not the game that anybody's putting credence on them. So those are the games that I worry about with Arteta, is those games against the so-called smaller
The
teams.
Villas and the Wolves of the world and the Burnleys.
Yeah. Villa, Wolves, Brighton, Burnleys, those kind of ones. The teams that did the double against us last season. You know, we did the double over Chelsea. We didn't lose against Man United last season, but we got done by Wolves and Villa. That says something about how we approach certain games, and that's for where I would say is don't be as worried, because we've actually got a good record. We've got a good record against bigger sides.
Okay, so we've got a few more minutes here with Josh telling us how the Arsenal can beat Chelsea. Super Kev, what's the Chelsea weakness then? Because they don't seem to have one right now, do they? They've won the Champions League. What is it, Kev?
They do have weakness. The key to beating Chelsea is you've got to work behind their outside centre backs. You have to get behind them. Once you get behind them and you turn them round, you've got a real chance, because them all running back towards their goal. So it's either balls whizzed across the box or balls getting cut back. That's how you got the chance. And we've proved that we can do it consistently. We've done it a lot last season at the Emirates, and we've done it at times at Stamford Bridge. And don't forget, Tuchel was manager when we beat him at Stamford Bridge. And I know it was fortuitous. Yes, it was, because Werner missed a whole load of chances. Chelsea were awful in front of goal that night. But sometimes you have to ride your luck. And if we're going to get anything in this game, we're going to have to ride our luck, Soph.
And it is a big part of football, isn't it, Josh? And we definitely didn't have too much luck. And I am smiling. Hello. I'm listening intently because Josh goes, he has so many great details that I'm a sponge when it comes to tactics. I feel like I learn every single time when I talk to Kev about this type of stuff. And I love Josh's mindset in terms of how he thinks about the approach for games and stuff. So I ask because when I see Chelsea play, I see a fluidity. I see they have danger all over the pitch. We mentioned Pulisic, you know, you talk about their midfield that has been completely transformed under Tuchel. You talk about their defense, and at the beginning, Thiago Silva was suffering more so under Lampard. They had goalkeeping issues. So that's what gives me hope about being able to turn things around. And I know they were able to turn things around when they got rid of their novice manager and they brought in an experienced manager who's been in the Champions League and Bundesliga at the highest level with Dortmund and PSG and in Europe as well. So for me, I just think when Arteta's thinking about this, and everyone keeps saying, like in chat, and I'm gonna summarize this up. They're asking for, you've talked about players and how everyone's going to play. So is it a three at the back, Josh, is what you're saying?
Me, I think it's exactly the same way we turned up.
Okay.
Yeah, the way to beat, for me, and I think Kev's mentioned as well, if you've got three at the back, you're playing against the three at the back, is to make sure you overload the spaces in behind. So it's making sure we've got wingers in there. And I want to be able to double up. But we've seen it from Arteta. He likes to double up on the flanks with the players. So that's with, Tierney. You saw it with Smith Rowe coming over towards him to build that kind of double up against the fullback that he's up against, to then help him cut in behind to play that cross in. That's one of the big things that we're going to have to think about is with our crossing, we haven't necessarily got people you've got much aerial prowess. And this isn't something because we've got players that are missing either. It's something we don't really have in our squad. I'd say the best striker that we've got for heading is probably actually Martinelli. For when he came in, I remember those great headers he scored against Nottingham Forest, and I think he scored another one in Europa League when he first broke through after we signed him. He looks to be the most threatening in the air, but he'll be coming up against someone like Christensen. And
do you think that doubling up suffocates the team? Or is it?
It's why we don't move much through midfield, because we kind of vacate the central area. And there were teams in Europe that do that, and they do it great. Have a look at the Atalanta team. Atalanta, sorry, not Atlanta in the MLS, but Atalanta in Serie A with Gasparini as their manager. we'll get this in the tactics. You'll work out what kind of a nerd I am with statistics. But have a look at a pass map for
They're loving your nerd. They're loving your nerd stuff here.
Yeah,
they're loving it.
It's pointless. There's just a guy that might stand in the middle of the centre of the park, and he's barely used. He just sits there. Everybody's out on the flanks because that's where the overloads are. They get in and attack, and it's making sure we just find the weak spots in there. And I think when you've got Rudiger out on the left side, who, you know, he's right-footed, he's not necessarily the most assured. We can definitely turn him inside and out if Pepe's on his day. Oof, I want to see that battle with Pepe got the bit between his teeth running at Rudiger, because that's just going to cause all sorts of problems. They're going to have to start bringing people across, which is going to bring space in for other people. You know, Martinelli, because he's got those legs, you know, just keep running around, running around the field, pressing people tightly as well, and making sure we quickly win the ball back. That's where I want to be seeing. I want to see almost like most tackles for the day, most interceptions coming from our striker, not from our defenders, because that will show us that that's what we've been doing in terms of, breaking down the team and stopping Chelsea doing what they're doing. Because whilst you say they've got these great technical players, they're all further up the field. Christensen doesn't want to be playing out from the back. Rudiger doesn't want to be playing out from the back and being forced to go onto his left foot. Chalobah, he's only just had his first Premier League start. He's a good player, but let's make him have a rough debut. You know, rough home debut for us, or rough debut against the Arsenal.
Well, there are some people that want you to read them bedtime tactical stories, Josh, with your dulcet.
Oh, I'm sure I can set up a phone line late at night, and I'll.
Oh, it's good stuff. So, let's end on this. By the way, some fun stuff as well. Apparently, Newman's been banned from Twitter. I don't know if it's because he was. I can't free you from Twitter. I rescinded your yellow card, and Kev approved that. But there's nothing we could do to help you with Twitter. I'm sorry. And Josh, he does have a voice for radio. It's very I sit here and I just love to listen because I learn, as I said. So how do we see this game going, Kev? What's your thought process prediction wise? And also, will we win or lose this game? Josh has laid it out really well, I think. Is Arteta going to be his own worst enemy in this game?
What do you mean? His own worst enemy?
I mean, he's been able to... I think there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of transition in the team, right? There's
a lot of transition in the club.
Right? And he's been able to beat Chelsea, beat them in the FA Cup, beat them twice last season, no matter who's manager, Kev. So I'm just saying sometimes he overthinks things.
Well, he hasn't overthought things before, has he?
Well, not against Chelsea, but against other teams, yeah.
No, so, listen, no manager tries to do things to mess himself up. But I just think at the times we're just not strong enough. We are not strong enough. And you know me, I'm always like to be positive about Arsenal. I want Arsenal to prove me wrong, but I just don't see Arsenal winning the game. The best I could ask for is a draw. But I just don't see Arsenal winning the game.
Josh, what are your thoughts based on everything you've looked at, how you've analysed things? And we haven't even talked about, and we'll do that on a follow-up, but who can come off the bench? Like, what's your take on how this game unfolds and what you think the score is going to be?
I will get everybody prepared for a tight and cagey game. That's what I'm imagining. It will be not the best to watch, but I think we can get a result. But it will be very much, like Kev said, fortuitous, a bit like the last game that we played against them. Whilst Yannick says, yeah, it could be awfully negative, but would you rather an awfully negative win or a gung-ho loss? And I think when the league, it's all about getting the points on the board. And right now, especially after a loss against a promoted side, what we need right now is some points on the board. And
how you bounce back here? How you bounce back here?
It's all about that.
Well, I think when Kev says he doesn't see us winning, and I think it's a different Chelsea, and I believe that's why, because of the manager. And Josh, you both said it in the middle of the show. It's because of Tuchel. that maybe we see this a little bit differently. But they're known to have hiccups too, this Chelsea team. And I don't know. I hope for the best. We'll give more predictions at on Friday.
We hope 100%. I always hope. But you're asking me today, I just think obviously Chelsea had a lot stronger squad than we've got. And I think us being the underdogs is going to suit us.
Well, Magic Mike is giving you shit right now, Kev, because everyone's clocked our points that we did earlier on before the season started, how many points we'd have after the first 10 games.
Yeah, that's before the season even kicked off. And it's not looking great. But that's all right. I don't mind. It happens.
Do you know what? Call me crazy. I've correct so far. Josh, I predicted a loss against Brentford. Okay. I fancy us. Call me crazy. I fancy us this weekend. You know why? There's something about being at the very bottom, and I think there's new players in, and I think there's things that we're going to be able to maybe kind of do. And I just think these are the games that Arteta lives for. And when you have the number of a team, I think sometimes it doesn't matter who the manager is. I kind of fancy us. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to the Arsenal this weekend. How about them apples? I know everyone's telling me I'm crazy, but you know what? I wasn't crazy when I said we'd lose to Brentford, was I? I know people telling me I shouldn't bet and all that type of stuff, but that's fine. Okay, Josh, real quick in 30 seconds. Is there anything else you want people to know about this game before we leave everyone?
Oh, is there anything else? I think watch out for Ben White. I think that's going to be the one. This is going to be the game where we'll see something from him for me. And it'll be those long-ranging passes. That'll be the key. In behind, over the fullbacks that are pushing on. That's the big one for me. But we'll see.
So, listen, you can't lose. I know everyone. Call me crazy. That's fine. This is my vibe. This is my my gut tells me. This is what my gut's telling me. You can't perform like that against Brentford and not show up in a London derby against Chelsea. We're going to be at home. Fans are going to be back in the stadium. I think we'll score first. We'll get off to a good start. Get the fans behind us, because if we concede first, that's when I feel like the game could get out of hand. In particular, especially with the fans back in stadium. So, listen. You guys can let us know what you think. On tomorrow's show, we're going to have Kevin Says, and we'll get into all of your other questions that you're asking. Ramsdale, Odegaard, a whole bunch of other stuff that's going on at the club. We'll get stuck into the nuts and bolts of that. Today's show was all about how we can beat Chelsea. And Josh, well done.
Top man, Josh. Top man.
Thank you, everybody.
We didn't even argue today.
No, I was going to say I didn't realize I could get yellow cards rescinded, but hopefully I don't end up with more than 5 before Christmas and have to be given some time off.
No cards for you. And look, Kev, there's 500 of them in live chat right now. Tell them.
Come on, you know the script. There's got to be a minimum 250 likes, guys. Hit it, lick it, smash it. Do what you have to do. Do what you have to do. But it's because you love the Arsenal. That's why you do it. Come on, guys. Come on.
Absolutely. And you're right, Mark. Mark will be there. Our roving reporter, our first roving reporter report from the home game this weekend. You won't want to miss it. Mark's going to be shooting a lot of videos, and then we'll be playing those for you in the post-game show as well. So look forward to that too from the Highbury squad this coming season. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Kev, you are rocking that Dicky Bow. I know you're off to do a little bit of Lee Judge's TV next. So if you guys haven't had enough, just swing by Lee Judge's channel and you'll see a little bit more of Kev, because they're going to carry on the conversation about whether or not the Arsenal can beat Chelsea. Josh, well done.
And that could get a bit spicy.
It can get spicy. I'm going to tune in for that one. And Josh, we'll see Josh for the Manchester City game next. And as promised, we're going to have some fun pre-recorded stuff for the Tactical Squad show with Josh. So make sure you follow him. Tell them where they can find you, Josh.
You can find me on Twitter at JoshTheHuman23, I think is my at the moment. Or, of course, you can also see me on a Burkamp Wonderland, who are recording at the moment. So if they have gone live and you don't want to go and see Kev, because I don't know why you'd not want to go and see Kev, but if you did want to go somewhere else, then hop over to ABW, where they are currently live as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
If you take
great
us out,
pod. Another great pod. And listen, Gooners, stay off the Twitterverse, and let's make sure we concentrate on what makes us happy and sometimes sad. The Arsenal. Squaddies at ease.